Welcome to my brand new podcast. You're listening to The Things Nobody Tells You About with Marthy Cherubin. Instead of finishing my labor story, today I'm going to interview one of our beautiful mothers who happened to be one of my sisters. However, fear not. The second part of my labor story will air next week, so stay tuned. In today's episode, I'm going to interview one of my sisters, Merlindy Cherubin Moise. She is a married mother of two beautiful girls, ages 10 and 11. She is a registered nurse and has been for the past 15 years. She's also the sister with the youngest children in the family until I gave birth to my son 2 years ago. I am going to talk to her about her pregnancy, labor, and postnatal journey and why she didn't tell me about it until now. So, Merlindy, how did you find out you were pregnant with your first child?
Well, thank you. Hi, Moti. Thanks for having me. So basically, the way I found out I was pregnant, it was on July 4th. After I finished eating my lunch and I sat on my couch watching TV and all of a sudden I felt nauseous and I felt something coming up through my throat and I had to run to the bathroom and I started to vomit. As a matter of fact, I vomit all my lunch, which for me was pretty much bizarre because all my life I never vomit. I mean, I don't know as a baby, but I never vomit. That's when it occurred to me to actually get a pregnancy test. But we know that we're trying to get pregnant.
Okay, so
That
it
I
made
know.
sense that you decided to do a pregnancy test.
Yes,
Cool. So, how did it feel being pregnant, especially the first time?
we were very happy because we were married for 2 years. We decided to hold on as long as we can because we didn't want to have a child right away. So it was the most amazing, wonderful news that we had ever heard.
For you, as a woman, how did you feel physically? How did it feel being pregnant for the
My,
first time?
for the first time being pregnant, I love the thought that I'm going to be a mother because I wanted it. But the way I felt, I didn't like it.
W-
Just to be honest, I've
what
been
do you mean? Can you be
vomiting.
more specific?
I didn't like it because I was getting nauseous every hour of the day.
Oh.
I'm nauseous. I
Hmm.
vomit. I mean, for me, it was not a morning sickness. It was like an every day, every hour sickness. Whatever I ate, whatever I drank, I have to run to the bathroom and throw up. That
Jeez.
I didn't like. I didn't like it at all. Although I mean, I like the fact that I'm gonna have a child. I did, but the sudden symptom that I have throughout my pregnancy, I don't like it. My mouth was watery. I'm nauseous all the time. I have to eat 3 course meal every day. I have to eat. I have a great appetite, but it's the after the fact. Whatever touch my mouth, I have to throw up.
So you
Mhm.
were eating all the time, but you could not keep the food down.
That's correct. That's
Wow.
correct. When I went to the doctor, I thought something was wrong with me. The
Hmm.
doctor said, "No, you're fine. It's just some women, she even go further. She said that sometimes it's very cultural. She said that she has seen a lot of women from the Caribbean. They tend to be nauseous and have a lot of, sickness at the beginning of the pregnancy.
I'm not sure if I completely agree with that. I mean, I've heard other
That's what she
women's
said.
stories, and I don't think it's a Caribbean culture thing, but in terms of
Hmm.
nauseousness and vomiting, some women go through that.
Hmm. Let me rephrase that. The culture I think she mentioned now, remember clearly, is the speeding.
Oh,
My mouth
okay.
was watery. I was spitting like 20 times a day.
Oh, you were
My
spitting
mouth
all the
was,
time.
I was spitting all the time.
Hmm.
Day, night, during the day. I mean, I was spitting all the time. I'm nauseous all the time. I vomit all the time. So, yes,
That sounds
I don't
like a
like that.
horrible experience.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
Oh,
Oh my
goodness.
God.
Wow. So, did you have any complications apart from the sickness you were getting, the daily, hourly sickness you were getting? Did you have any complications during your pregnancy?
No. By the grace of God, I was very blessed on that point.
Mm-hmm.
I kept working throughout my pregnancy. I didn't have any other problem. I didn't have any back pain. My pregnancy was going well. That's why the doctor, when I went to the doctor, kept complaining, why am I always nauseous? Why? All the time she said, you know what? That's the least of your worry. If
Mm.
you vomit nauseous, that's a good sign. My vitals, my blood sugar, my weight, I was gaining the expected weight because you're supposed to gain about 25 pounds. My weight was appropriately, my blood sugar, my blood pressure. I wasn't swollen, no back pain,
Mm.
no headache, nothing so ever. She said, honey, you have a great pregnancy. I said, really? And I'm nauseous and vomit? For her, she said I had a great pregnancy. I can work with no problem. At that time, I used to work like 12 hour shift, 13-hour shift.
Oh my
I wake up in
goodness.
the
Really?
morning. Yeah, and I can do it. When I go to work,
What happened to your feet
uh,
though?
no, except 6 to 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my feet felt a little heavy. But
Mm.
first of all, I was the charge nurse at the time. I was the nurse manager assistant. I was not really on my feet 24/7. Basically, I make rounds with the doctors. I wasn't really doing direct patient care most of the time. I was supervising as a charge nurse.
Okay.
So when I go to work, we start early. I'll start at 5 in the morning. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go
Well, that was
until
great
5 to 6. Yeah,
because
that
some
was great.
people
That was,
wouldn't be able to work through that.
oh yeah, I did. But the thing about it, when I work, when time comes for my breakfast, I have to stop whatever I'm doing. When time for lunch, I have to stop.
Mm.
When time for dinner, I was eating 3 course meal every day. I
Mm.
had a great appetite, but I was not gaining weight. I mean, I was not gaining extra weight.
So, how was your birth experience like?
Oh my God. The actual birth is the worst pain I ever experienced in my whole entire life. But I know because it was not too much of a surprise for me as a nurse because I had my internship for 3 months at pediatric. I worked with babies for 3 months. I worked with pregnant women for 3 months. I kind of have an idea about everything. Nothing was foreign to me. I know about the pain, the epidural. I know what to do. I even educate my patient, the first mothers. So nothing really new to me. But there is the thing: knowing it and experience it is two different things. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen people doing it. I've been coaching people through their labor as a student. I've been talking to new mothers, pregnant women. I give them great advice, the handout what to do, what to expect. But I never thought that for a second. I forgot all of that because I was such in pain. The pain I had experienced, it was brutal. And I remember staying in labor for 7 hours. 7 hours.
Wow.
It was rough. It was rough.
Now, your first experience, so you have two children. So that was the
Mhm.
experience you had with the first child. How was your experience with the second child that you had? Was it the same or different?
Well, for me, it's like the same story again. I didn't have any other complication. It's the speeding, the nauseousness, and the vomit. I was able to work throughout it again through my pregnancy. but it was not surprising because we were planning on it again because I wanted a second child and I want them to be close in age. So we were
Okay.
working on it. So it was not a surprise, really.
You had mentioned with the first one, you didn't like the way it felt being pregnant. Did you feel the same way with the second child as well?
I didn't like it either because I was, I love the fact that I'm getting a 10 daughters. I didn't like it. I didn't like the symptom, the vomiting, the spitting. I
Hmm.
mean, my sickness was every hour sickness, every day, every time of the day sickness.
Wow.
And
That's a lot.
we should, that's a lot. And we should add, most women experience this symptom on the first 3 months. On the fourth month, they got better. But somehow, me, I never got better. My sickness lasts for 9 months
Oh my
and both
God.
pregnancy. 9 months and both pregnancy.
Wow. So, all right. It seems like you had very much the same experiences with both children. Did you experience any postpartum depression with both pregnancies? Postpartum depression is a serious but treatable medical condition involving feelings of extreme sadness, indifference, and or anxiety, as well as changes in energy, sleep, and appetite. It carries risk for the mother and the child. Up to 70% of all new mothers experience the baby blues, a short lasting condition that doesn't interfere with daily activities and doesn't require medical attention. Symptoms of this emotional condition may include crying for no reason, irritability, restlessness, and anxiety. These symptoms last a week or two and generally resolve on their own without treatment. However, if those symptoms persist, it is encouraged that you seek treatment with a mental health care professional. Now, have you experienced postpartum depression with either of your pregnancies?
No. I also knew about postpartum way before I had my children. So therefore, I prepared myself. And sometimes, even though you know you prepared yourself, that doesn't mean that you cannot
Since after your
experience.
birth, so you never felt any sadness at all, or anxiety,
No,
or fear, indifference after the baby was born?
for my first child, I was more like worried, like, oh my God, it's a small baby in the house. I'll be checking on the baby every minute. But
Okay.
I was blessed in that point. I mean, I know what it's like to suffer from that postpartum depression. But when I'm taking care of the baby, I've been pampered by my husband.
Mm.
I
So
get to
you had
whatever I
help, so
want.
that kind of made it
I got
easier for
help.
you.
Exactly. And then I got some great friends, some my family.
Hmm.
They come time to time. I have a lot of sisters, as you all probably know that already. They'll come just to talk. And we are a big family. We like talking.
Being
That
social and interactive with family members and friends.
yes, and
Okay.
that's right. That's really a big support to me because I'm always on the phone with talking to somebody. I was very occupied by other social activities inside
Hmm.
the house.
Now, what did you know about pregnancy, labor, and postnatal before you had your first child? You had mentioned earlier that you used to work with pregnant mothers. Any specific things you knew about
I
pregnancy, labor, and postnatal before you had your first child?
I knew about how giving birth it's a matter of life and death because I have seen mother who didn't make it out after having a child. I witnessed that. So I knew the danger going to labor. But one thing I did not know, the gravity, the intensity of the pain that a mother have to go through while giving birth. And I don't think nobody ever told me about the gravity, the pain
Mhm.
that comes while giving birth. That for me was really, I mean, it was hard. It was very hard. I suffered for a good 7 hours before I gave
Yeah,
birth to my
it's
daughter.
intense.
It was intense. It was very intense. But throughout the labor, I knew what I was getting myself to. I knew that there's a chance of me not going back. I knew there's a chance of me, the baby, not make it out. I knew all of that. As a matter
Oh,
of
that must
fact,
have been
I
scary.
was. It is scary. It was scary because I've been playing that in my mind. I know a lot, to be honest with you. I even have a conversation with the anesthesiologist who came to give me the epidural.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I didn't want it. Then I decided to do it, and I said to him, do you understand what you're about to do right now? Do you understand what's going on right now? I asked him about how long he been doing it. He was a very nice doctor, he was a middle-aged doctor. He been doing it for decades. But I just had to talk to him before he started with the epidural. I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned to him that, my life is in your hand. You understand that? So he think I was funny at that time, but I wasn't. Some people paralyzed after that epidural. You understand that? He said, I know. And I also understand that.
That's good.
Anyway.
So it seems like you kind of knew what you were getting into being pregnant and labor. But I also mentioned
Mhm.
postnatal. Some of you have heard me mentioning postnatal. So what it means is that postnatal means the period after childbirth. They typically define postnatal as the period that begins immediately after the birth of the baby and extends up to 6 weeks or 42 days after birth. Now, for me, I think postnatal is longer than that, but I'm not a medical doctor, so it is what it is. So the actual definition is up to 6 weeks after birth. That's what they consider postnatal. For me, it feels like it should be up to a year after birth. What did you actually know about what would happen to your body after you had a child? Specifically, mentally, physically, and emotionally.
I knew about the feeling of being stressed, overwhelmed, and I knew that now you have a life, a newborn. I knew that it's not really something that people can take lightly because if you weren't prepared, if you didn't have the means, that can be very detrimental to you and the baby.
Mm.
But what I did not know about after you have a baby is the all the work that comes with it. And it can be very overwhelming.
That's the things that nobody told you about.
Yes. But it's not just that because so many things involved. Because if you do not have the support, be careful because that alone can put you at risk. Because the postnatal, it can be very dangerous. This is not a joke.
What have you learned from your pregnancy journey? And what any advice would you like to give any prospective mothers, parents, and or childbearing age women?
What I learned about all of that is that don't go ahead have a child just because your family wants you to have a baby. This is something you and your partner have to sit down, talk about, and discuss because it's a life changing event. Having a
Mm.
child change your life. When I said change your life, I mean on every level because sometimes some people had a great relationship until they have a baby. And no matter how powerful, successful woman you are, you need a willing partner with you
Mm.
because this is not a one person job. This is a couple job because
I would say more than a
that
couple
child,
job. Like,
it's a
it's a,
family. That's
it's
true.
a
That's true.
village job.
It's a village job. You can do it. This is a journey. You cannot do it alone. You cannot decide on it alone.
Unfortunately, sometimes some women don't have that choice to have a partner with them when that happens. When that happens, it's an extremely, extremely difficult journey. And that's when I would say that it's important to find support. So even if you don't have a support, a partner support for one reason or another, that the person is not in the picture, I think it's important to have the support of family and friends, or if you can afford it, of a nanny or somebody.
Yes,
Because this is
yes,
not something, like you mentioned, this is not something that can be done alone. And we need
no,
support. We need anything that we can to help make this better. The women need that. Like they need the time, they need the space, they need the actual people to make them food, to help them with like
everything.
basic things.
That's true. And as simple as it is, most women go on that depression because sometimes they up through the night.
Hmm.
And that's why having help comes handy if you have someone with you that can help you to look over the baby while you're taking a nap, and to help you when you're doing things. This is really helpful. That's why you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone.
As a group, us women, we've been tasked to carry on the legacy of the world, the human race. For a society as rich and powerful as ours, that has done so many things well, and who's always talking about family values, we've done a pretty lousy job at taking care of our families, especially our women. And regardless of the reason why and how a woman has a child, we need to take care of those women and those children. They need support everywhere. They need support from their family, their friends, and from their government, who are getting their tax dollars money anyway, because those children are the future of a society. They are who's going to be inheriting the country, the earth, and the planet that we are all living in. We need to care for them and their parents so that they can be good, healthy, and productive members of our society. So, as the one sister who's had the most recent children, why didn't you tell me about your pregnancy, labor, and postnatal journey? Especially after you knew that I got pregnant. So, why didn't you tell me?
You know what though? It's funny. I forgot. It's one of the things that after you get through all that, I think you just forgot. After my first, I said, oh my God, I don't think I'm ready for that. Then 22 months later, here I am with another child. I think what happened is we forgot.
My thing is like, you forgot, but you noticed I was pregnant. What did you think about?
I think I was too excited for you and Eddie. That's why I don't want to say more than you guys, but I was too excited. I waited too long. For me,
I know you guys did. The whole
I
family
waited
did.
too long. You know what? Maybe everybody also have their own experience sometimes. I mean, maybe you're not gonna go through all I've been through when I was pregnant. And I know you guys got it. You got it.
Mm.
And I know my brother-in-law family, they were more than ready. And I wasn't worried. I feel like you had all the support around you.
I understand what you're saying. It seems like some women have said the same thing, that they didn't feel like they need to tell other women about it because they got it. They have some support, which I truly think is a mistake. I think you should tell them anyway, because regardless of how rich you are, like you're a millionaire, you have this support. Because what you actually go through, I feel like there's a certain preparedness mentally, emotionally, that needs to be done and physically be done. Because having the money and all these good things and the support, they are great. They help a lot.
Yes, that
However,
is
the pregnant mother, that mother, they need to be prepared for this. They need that mental, emotional, physical preparedness to get them through the whole process. Because sometimes even women or people with support, sometimes they still do end up having postpartum depression because the shock, the intensity of pregnancy and labor like could really really mess you up, and that nobody
That's
just
true.
tell you about that. And I feel like this is
That's
a
true.
service for so many people, because if we were to prepare them for this, I feel like we would have helped reduce so much of stress, anxiety, depression, and the whole postpartum depression thing. Like, we'll not get rid of it, but we could have decreased the amount of people who had that. Having money and having family members, they are great, but they're not the only thing, because the whole experience itself, I mean, the whole experience of bringing a human being to life, it's a beautiful, traumatic, intense, and crazy thing. And I feel like
That's,
we need to help out our fellow women, our fellow sisters, our fellow mothers, to prepare them for this. I feel like life
that's
will be so
true.
much better for them and also their children. Also, because people don't talk about these things.
And also, I think some of my friends, they said they never experienced nothing from getting pregnant, even after the baby. They never get nauseous. The only thing, their belly just getting bigger. That's the only thing they ever had. After the baby, they just get up and go. And I figure, oh, all right. People just kind of forgot. And then people said, maybe she didn't not gonna go through that.
I think sometimes they feel like they don't want to scare you,
That's
and
true.
not really
That's true.
realizing this. It's a whole interesting, fun, scary journey that I feel like needs to be explored even more, and that people need to talk about, and that are young, old, mature, and sexy women. We all need
That's
to be aware and to know these things. So that basically concludes our interview today, Merlindy. It has been a
thank you.
great pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you
As
for having me.
yes, as the sister with the youngest children in my family, I thought that would be a great idea talking to you to just figure out exactly why wasn't I told about a few things. And I appreciate I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy, busy schedule to talk to me today. Have a wonderful day, and talk to you soon. At this time, I'd like to encourage all of my listeners to leave a review of this episode on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can also leave a comment about your pregnancy stories, so please join us.